The tale commences at a battlefield of the game named World, where the main character of that game finally arrives at the long-awaited last location of the long fight, which is the Demon King Castle. As he steps into the castle, the character discovers it is teeming with demonic minions serving the Demon King. Realizing this is the climax of the long conflict, the player identifies the creature seated on the throne as the formidable Demon King. Simultaneously, the Demon King acknowledges his arrival, acknowledging that this point is commendable for a human to reach, yet warns that this is the showdown and commands his followers to eliminate the intruder. Thousands of the underlings rush to assault him, but undaunted by the oncoming horde, the character braces for the imminent clash, channeling unwavering determination to prepare for an epic counterassault. With mystical energy coalescing around his outstretched hand, he leaps forward to confront the encroaching horde. Employing an arsenal of arcane prowess and combat finesse, he executes a series of maneuvers, weaving through the chaos precisely. Harnessing the power of aim compensation, his attacks strike unerringly, pinpointing vulnerabilities with unparalleled accuracy. Utilizing strength penetration, each strike carries an overwhelming force, sundering the defenses of numerous adversaries and subduing them amidst the chaos. The battlefield becomes a canvas for his unparalleled skill as he systematically dismantles the demon lackeys of darkness with a display of unparalleled mastery over the forces at his command. The character then unleashes the outburst acceleration, contemplating that the Demon King has more subordinates than expected. Undeterred by the overwhelming numbers, the character adeptly executes the bullet dance maneuver to neutralize the encroaching underlings. Meanwhile, the Demon King is taken aback by the protagonist's unwavering determination, and witnessing his formidable underlings fall at the hands of a mere human stuns the demon. The realization that this lone challenger poses a significant threat prompts the Demon King to intervene. The Demon King raises his spear with a menacing flourish, summoning a fierce gust of malevolent mana, and the eerie eye-shaped stone embedded in his forehead begins to pulsate ominously, channeling an abrupt surge of devastating mana aimed like a lightning bolt toward the protagonist. The attack unfolds with startling swiftness, catching the character off guard as its speed surpasses his expectations. However, he luckily evades the attack, contemplating that if that attack had hit him, he would have died probably. Out of the blue, the Demon King unleashes another deadly assault. This time, rather than solely focusing on evading, the character decides to retaliate and launch a counterattack against the Demon King. He shoots the demon with his gun, but the monster remains unfazed and sarcastically remarks that it's laughable that a mere human dares use an attack of this level on him. As the demon launches another assault, the player realizes that the Demon King's barrier is absorbing his attacks, and he wonders whether the rumors about the dark stone on the demon's forehead being the only vulnerable spot hold any truth. Amid the chaos, the character decides to do whatever it takes to pierce through the barrier. However, all his attempts prove futile as the Demon King creates a protective layer around himself, making it seemingly impossible to breach his defenses. Exuding confidence in his imminent triumph, the Demon King ridicules the character's efforts, proclaiming his intention to demonstrate the vast difference in power between them. With overwhelming magical prowess, the Demon King conjures several vicious mana balls and launches them simultaneously at the protagonist, catching the character off guard. Despite his agility, the character struggles to dodge the onslaught of attacks. Suddenly, one of the vicious mana balls directly hits the main character, causing his weapon to fall to the ground. Meanwhile, the Demon King taunts the protagonist, asserting that his feeble attacks cannot reach him no matter how hard the character struggles. The Demon King's arrogance stems from the belief that the mere player poses no threat to his overwhelming power. In a sudden turn of events, the player seizes control of the situation by summoning a new weapon through a magical circle, determined to test the Demon King's belief that nothing can breach his defenses, and with resolve in their voice, the player declares their intent to challenge this notion. With unwavering determination, the player unleashes the power of the Moonlight Bullet, aiming directly at the dark, eye-like stone barrier shielding the Demon King. The bullet cracks the barrier, and the unexpected breach of the impenetrable barrier enrages the Demon King. With a menacing proclamation, the demonic being asserts that the player's fate will be sealed by his hand, unleashing a ferocious surge of malevolent mana that envelops him. Realizing he's trapped in the demon's relentless assault, the player acknowledges the looming threat, contemplating the impending danger of being consumed by the overwhelming force. Faced with the grim prospect of being overpowered, the player understands it's time to go all out or face inevitable defeat. In a sudden surge of resolve and urgency, he swiftly initiates the consecutive shot compensation technique, a rapid-fire barrage aimed to pierce through the Demon King's barrier. In a pivotal move to defeat the Demon King, the player unleashes their ultimate and final attack, Dawn's Judgment. The formidable power surges forth, shattering the dark mana, enveloping the player, and engulfing the battlefield in a radiant brilliance that overwhelms the evil presence of the Demon King. As the radiant energy engulfs the demon, the player seizes the moment and delivers a decisive blow, aiming directly at the Demon King's head. The shot finds its mark with precision, bringing a definitive end to the tyrannical reign of the vicious ruler. With the resounding defeat of the Demon King, the game reaches its conclusion. The player stands victorious, overcoming countless challenges and adversaries to emerge triumphant, bringing closure to the epic battle. The boy playing World Virtu Magic Marksman finds it amusing, remarking that it is pretty fun as he didn't expect the magic skills to be that good. He decides that this time round, the character he will choose in the updated World 3.0 will be the mage. Contemplating that a typical mage character would probably be boring, he decides to make a special mage through the world's karma system. This system offers the option to gain benefits at the cost of penalties, involving risks that dissuade most people from utilizing it. However, intrigued by the idea of receiving additional stats despite the penalty traits, the player sees this as an opportunity to create a character with distinctive abilities, willing to take on risks for greater rewards. The boy then starts choosing several penalty traits like Puppet, Insomnia, Mana Addiction, Chronic Headache, and Life-Draining Talent for his new mage character. He strategizes to maximize all magic-related stats to create what he perceives as the ultimate mage. Even though all of this ultimately makes the character he created look like a sick person, the boy doesn't care because, according to him, it is just a game character. Out of the blue, a voice calls out, jolting him to wake up. As he opens his eyes, he is shocked to find himself transformed into the mage character he had crafted in the game. His astonishment deepens when he realizes he is now in an unfamiliar room, completely bewildered by this sudden and inexplicable transformation and change in surroundings. Reflecting on his last memory, the boy recalls the loading screen that appeared before the game commenced, bearing an intriguing line. First is a coincidence, second is inevitable, and third is fate. As soon as the loading screen ended, a black light followed out, and he lost consciousness in the powerful gravitation, and it was as if he was being sucked inside. Suddenly, a man forcibly pulls him out of bed, yelling at him, pondering when Lennox will wake up. The man ferociously smacks his face and tumbles him off the bed. Looking around, the boy notices a crowd of people surrounding him. At that moment, he realizes that as pathetic as it may be, he has become the weak character he had created. The man ferociously commands him to run to the parts assembly room. As the man leaves, the boy's companions mock him, wondering how he could keep sleeping until the supervisor comes. One of them cynically remarks, "Let him be, as he is going to die anyways, and when that happens, the supervisor will take a beating too." Suddenly, the supervisor fiercely commands them to hurry up and get moving, which catches them off guard, and they abruptly follow the supervisor's advice. The supervisor then approaches one of the employees named Van, asking if he has ordered the Viper. The guy concurs, stating that he will bring it when it arrives. As they depart, the boy contemplates that the supervisor called him Lennox, realizing that it was just a character he made to enjoy the game, but he can't believe he has become stuck in this pathetic body. After 3 days, Lennox contemplates that 3 days have passed since he woke up in this place, which looks like some factory. He still doesn't know a lot, but he gets used to the daily routine of this factory shockingly quickly. He gets up before the sun rises and works until he is about to collapse from exhaustion, and before he sleeps, he receives a bowl of rice porridge that looks more like food waste than food. Even if he tries to ask something, the other workers refuse to exchange words with him. Part of it is because they are busy working under the boss's supervision, but more than that, the main reason is that they already view him as a dead man. He somehow believes that they are not wrong because with a body this weak, he won't be able to last more than a few days in a place like this. While engrossed in his thoughts, the carton he's carrying slips off his hands, and the supervisor scolds him harshly, referring to Lennox as a worthless bastard, and urges him to pick up the fallen carton. Lennox abruptly apologizes. However, he is suddenly overcome by severe coughing fits, causing alarm among the others. The supervisor thinks he is going to die. Considering him an eyesore, he commands Van to put him off in a corner somewhere. He then kicks Lennox's face, asserting him to hurry up and piss off, emphasizing that they are busy, so he must not get in their way and urge him to die on the side or somewhere. Meanwhile, Lennox thinks that in this extreme situation, he can retain his sanity because of the willpower he put into this character. However, so many illnesses and symptoms are killing him. Despite this body's overwhelming physical challenges and disadvantages, Lennox realizes its magical talent remains unaffected. He believes that if he can harness and unleash that innate magical ability, it might offer him an opportunity to escape from his current predicament. Gazing at the door, Lennox contemplates the possibility of attempting to leave. However, he understands that to escape successfully, he first needs to familiarize himself with the structure and layout of this unknown place. Lennox silently walks towards the door, considering it's convenient that nobody pays any attention to him. As he steps in, it turns out to be a corridor with another slightly open door. He wonders if it's a door that leads him to the outside. Intrigued, he cautiously approaches the slightly open door and covertly peers outside, hoping to catch a glimpse of what lies beyond. Lennox discreetly eavesdrops on the conversation between the two factory workers outside the room. They discuss the newcomers, remarking that those recently brought in are notably slow in their work. One expresses dissatisfaction, questioning what can be expected from individuals they regard as leftovers. This worker suggests that these newcomers might eventually become more valuable or productive through enough punishment or beating. The worker then states that it's concerning whether they can make the delivery to the union the day after tomorrow. When the other worker ponders what the union members will do with their products for them to rush to their factory like this, the fellow worker Van responds that it's because the union takes their shredder and sells it to the Black Mage. Lennox is surprised to hear them talking about Black Mage and realizes that magic exists in this world if only he could use it. As Lennox processes this newfound information, Van shows his comrade a new body enhancer called Viper. Van highlights the product's origins, mentioning it's from Calvin and Cubs, and emphasizes the new filter incorporated into this strengthening liquid, significantly reducing its toxicity. To Lennox's surprise, he discovers that the tube contains mana, which catches his attention and suggests potential magical properties within this substance. As he notices that substance, suddenly his eyes turn blue, and his entire body starts exuding mana. A shock rings through him as if something had exploded inside his body that was the sixth sense, which exceeds all the rest, or the third eye. Soon he realized that it was his alter ego, and he grasped a new insight that he hadn't been aware of until now. It was constantly flowing in this world. However, he had only yet to recognize it. The fundamental power that makes up this world, the impetus that defines existence, and the mana swimming throughout the airflow into his body with his breath. He clenches his fist, acknowledging that this power, which is both familiar and unfamiliar, is uncertainly the world's magic. Later that night, while all the workers were sleeping, Lennox, curled up in his blanket, considered that he might be able to escape with this amount of mana. Recalling the workers' conversation about the union members arriving in 2 days, Lennox speculates that this event might cause a lapse in security measures on that day. Considering this potential vulnerability in security, he begins to devise a plan, hoping that this window of opportunity could aid in his escape from the confines of his current situation. He wonders if there is any way he can avoid attention and move alone. Suddenly, he contemplates that if he uses a similar method to light on the surface of his skin, it will feel like he has a fever, and with that, he will be able to be left alone. On the other hand, Van knocks on the supervisor's room door, informing him that he has brought the viper he discussed earlier. The director acknowledges his efforts and offers him the viper. When Van declines, the supervisor insists, citing Van's consistent diligence in carrying out his tasks as the reason for his generosity. The supervisor is firm in his decision, encouraging Van to accept the viper as a token of appreciation for his reliable performance in handling various assignments. The man then asks him about Lennox, stating that the guy who was wobbling earlier looks like he will die soon, and commands Van to take care of him because if that guy stands out when a union member comes, they will look bad for no reason, and Van concurs to heed his command. The following day, as the alarm blares, the workers wake up and abruptly hush to get ready, considering that today is the day the union members are coming, so the supervisors will be more pissed than usual. Suddenly, their attention shifts to Lennox, who appears to be sweating excessively. The concern arises among them as they believe his fever seems quite severe. Some workers even speculate that he might have already passed away, pondering about the cleanup process if such an event were to occur. Meanwhile, Lennox, pretending to be sick, observes the reaction around him and perceives that his plan seems to have succeeded, noting the diversion of attention caused by his apparent illness. Soon, Van arrives there, and the rest of the workers consider that Van's planning on sending Lennox off clearly, so one of them commands the rest of the workers that they should go to work, reasoning that seeing something like that won't make them have good luck for the day. In the interim, Lennox wonders what it means that Van will send him off clearly, and he becomes astounded because this situation wasn't part of his plan. Van forcibly grasps his shoulder and gives him the viper, emphasizing that it's an active enhancer that temporarily improves his physical strength. Van adds that it's cheap, but it will be enough for the road Lennox has ahead of him. Lennox accepts the viper, and as Lennox consumes the enhancer, an astonishing transformation occurs within his body. Mana radiates from him, a phenomenon he finds unbelievable, considering this active enhancer's significant vitality. He reflects that Guy Van ran an errand to the supervisor's room, and after deliberating the situation, he decides to change his escape plan. On the other hand, in the basement level of the factory's loading dock, the workers diligently load cargo into the containers. Meanwhile, the Union Council member confronts the factory representative, rebuking him over discrepancies in the number of products loaded. He takes the credit for keeping this factory in operation and asserts that they are cutting some slacks on the workers here because there's an ongoing indictment with the Human Rights Commission, so they must show sincerity. The factory supervisor abruptly bows down to apologize. Amid the commotion caused by the unmember's behavior, another supervisor appears visibly disturbed, and unexpectedly, Lennox arrives there with a container, which startles him. Lennox informs him that he is on an errand to go to the director's office, but it's locked, so he requests the supervisor to unlock the room. The supervisor yells at Lennox, asserting that he is already busy, and inquires about the errand. When Lennox reveals that it's called Viper, the supervisor reluctantly agrees to lead him to the director's room and urges him to follow. On their way, the supervisor continues reprimanding him, claiming that he is busy, and asks why someone asked a bastard like Lennox to go on this errand, wondering where they find a guy like him. He then unlocks the door and urges him to put that container in the office quickly. Meanwhile, Lennox gathers his mana in his fist and abruptly strangles the supervisor with a mana bolt until he falls unconscious. Lennox swiftly seizes the keys near the supervisor's feet and embarks on a quest to uncover the elusive viper concealed within the room. His search leads him to discover a surprising duo, a gun and a jacket, which he grabs without hesitation. After a diligent exploration, he uncovers the coveted viper beneath the bed. Recognizing its extraordinary properties that can miraculously banish exhaustion and pain, he eagerly claims one, marveling at its potent abilities since he came here only for this. Suddenly, the other supervisor who used to scold Lennox comes across the room and is taken aback by the smell of viper. He abruptly enters the room, yelling, "Who dares to rest in here?" He is taken aback to find his comrade Mark lying unconscious on the floor. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to the supervisor, Lennox gathered his magic to attack him, but the supervisor barely managed to evade it. The supervisor is astonished to witness Lennox wielding magic, while Lennox contemplates that he doesn't have enough magic to unleash another bolt. The supervisor gathers himself and lunges to assault that bastard. However, before he can proceed, Lennox brandishes the gun and points it at the supervisor, prompting the supervisor to halt his action. The man raises his hands to surrender and requests Lennox to calm down and handle the matter through dialogue. Furthermore, he apologizes to the protagonist for everything he has done, claiming he was under orders and had no choice. He pledges that he won't tell anyone if Lennox lets him live, while Lennox knows that's a lie and isn't ready to believe a word he says. However, he wonders if he can even shoot a person. Suddenly, an external voice inquires about Supervisor Adez's whereabouts from outside the room. Sensing the urgency, Lennox prevents the supervisor from responding and remains silent. In a covert plea, the supervisor implores Lennox to spare his life. With no response from Lennox, the supervisor subtly points towards a nearby door, indicating that it leads to the basement parking so Lennox can use that route to exit the area before that guy comes. However, the protagonist seems hesitant to believe his words. The supervisor's comrade who asks about Adi wonders if he is napping again, considering he didn't respond earlier. Suspecting Adi might be inside, the colleague proceeds toward the director's room to check on him. However, upon opening the door, he is wholly astonished or shocked by what he discovers. On the other hand, Lennox swiftly drives the car into the basement, while the worker there thinks it's Mark, but he is taken aback when the car halts in front of him, and Lennox brandishes the gun at him, urging him to open the door. Trembling in fear, Van concurs to open, pleading with Lennox not to shoot. After a while, he tremblingly informs the protagonist that the gate is opening so he can leave. However, the supervisor, searching Adi in the director's room, finds the corpses inside and anxiously contacts Van on the walkie-talkie, commanding him to close the exit. Meanwhile, Lennox, pointing the gun at Van, hears all that, so fearing for his life, the worker abruptly turns off the walkie-talkie, but Lennox shoots him dead, reasoning that if he leaves him behind, he will become a problem. Lennox's high mental strength, level-headedness, and rationality surpass his guilt and fear and allow him to maintain his sanity. During his escape, he encounters another gate, but this time he doesn't halt. Instead, he swiftly shatters the barrier by increasing the car's speed. He realizes that level-headedness that grows even stronger in an extreme situation is unmistakably a mage's talent. On the other hand, in the H's building, a man wearing a cloak is being chased by security. They even fired bullets to halt him, but they missed the target. That suspicious man is taken aback to find a window ahead, but he has no other choice, so he jumps through it without a second thought. His daring startles the security personnel as they can't believe he jumped from this height, and they assume he must be dead. The security head retrieves a piece of the man's clothing struck the window and commands his underlings to go down and search, asserting that they must have found his corpse. Conversely, the protagonist arrives at the game's magic engineering city, Valkan, and is utterly fascinated by the stark contrast it presents from World 2.0, and everything has a little mana mixed into it. Lennox can feel the familiar power he felt in the factory on the streets of Valkan City, which probably means that there's a considerable mana contribution to this world's civilization. However, he feels exhausted because he put himself too hard while trying to escape. He exhales a deep, weary sigh and intends to use the Viper, but after contemplation, he decides not to use it too early because he only has a few of them, so he should only use them for emergencies. He heads towards a hostel to rest. It takes him an hour to reach that place because he threw away his car, and thankfully, no one chased after him, and now he can rest for the time being. Finally arriving at the hostel, he longs to collapse onto the bed for much-needed rest. However, utterly drained and beyond the limits of his endurance, he succumbs to unconsciousness, only managing a few steps into the room before falling into oblivion. The following day, he wakes up with a parched throat. He groggily rises and walks toward the refrigerator. As he quenches his thirst with tin water, he feels a little alive, but suddenly a queasiness grips his stomach, urging him to hasten toward the sink to vomit. Feeling extremely queasy, he sits on the ground, and he feels like his head is going to split open. All the muscles in his body hurt like they are about to be ripped apart. Examining his trembling hands, he contemplates whether this unsettling sensation might be attributed to the effects of Viper. Despite this concern, he acknowledges the necessity of depending on stimulants if he intends to mobilize his body. However, a sudden rumbling in his stomach prompts him to consider that the nausea he's experiencing might stem from not having eaten anything for over 12 hours. He hastily consumes a canned meal from the refrigerator, only to find its taste unappealing. Simultaneously, the room's telephone rings, and the hotel management on the line informs him that he has 2 hours remaining until the scheduled checkout time. They ask if he would like to extend his stay. When Lennox agrees to extend his stay, they notify him of the costs involved, that the accommodations are 200,000 sel, the canned food worth 20,000 sel. So upon deducting his advance payment of 100,000 sel, Lennox's remaining balance is 120,000 sel, requesting him to pay by today. Lennox can't believe the canned food is worth 10% of his stay. He takes his money out of his pocket, contemplating that he has 130,000 sel, and after paying the hotel, he would be left with 10,000 sel. He realizes that at this rate, he won't be able to stay for another day, and he needs money to survive. He notices his grown hair and decides to clean up before leaving. He chops his hair as he doubts people will recognize him. Later, after leaving the hotel, he sits depressed in an alley, assuming that it will be impossible to earn money legally because he thinks he is an illegal visitor in this world as he doesn't even have an identity. However, he deceives an alternate plan to beat up criminals and take their money, which won't cause him many problems in the future either, so he starts looking for them. Using his mana manipulation ability, Lennox gathers mana in his ears, which helps him to eavesdrop on the conversations in the vicinity. He hears that the new engineer at Palmer's, the one that inspected the new AI for errors, went missing and that they are searching for an agency. Uninterested in these particular conversations, Lennox filters out the irrelevant details. Eventually, he intercepts a discussion relevant to his intentions, in which a baddie asks someone to bring the stolen money to their destined area. Intrigued by the conversation about the stolen money, Lennox sets off toward the designated location. However, amid his pursuit, he suddenly experiences dizziness, causing him to stumble. Frustrated by the limitations of his physical condition, he swiftly administers the Viper drug. Almost instantly, he feels renewed strength and vigor, revitalizing his demeanor. With his resolve restored, Lennox is now prepared to pursue his goal of earning money with a reinvigorated spirit. At that location, 2 delinquents aggressively accost a frightened man, forcing him to repeat something they had instructed him earlier. Trembling in fear, the man retorts that if they wrap up this, then there will be no problems. The delinquent assaults him because he lost the money they stole, but the poor guy desperately insists that he isn't lying as the money disappeared on the way. Since the delinquents find that he has no money, they deceive a horrifying plan for the amount that's missing. They plan to sell the man's body parts to recover their illegal money, while the man cries out for help and his pleas echo loudly in distress. In a swift and decisive move, Lennox intervenes as the delinquents are about to carry out their heinous plan. Utilizing his magical abilities, he unleashes a bolt of energy that incapacitates and neutralizes the threatening assailants, effectively ending their nefarious intentions. However, the sudden display of power terrifies the man, who, frightened by Lennox's actions, pleads with him for salvation, unsure of what to expect next in this unexpected turn of events. Shocked and intimidated by the unleashed power, the man's plea for safety reflects his fear and confusion amidst the chaos. The protagonist pays no attention to that man's appeal. Instead, he gathers the money from delinquents' pockets, which is almost 700,000 sel, and he considers that's much money. With this, he can get some clothes and medicine. As Lennox retrieves the gadget from the delinquent's possession, the frightened man anxiously implores him not to direct it toward him. He hurriedly explains that it's a modified Dyke's lace cutter, initially intended for legal purposes but altered unlawfully to function as a weapon. Acknowledging the potential usefulness of the gadget for self-defense, Lennox stows it away in his jacket, considering it an additional measure of protection. Attempting to assert authority, Lennox commands the boy regarding the events witnessed that he must not tell anyone. However, before he can finish, the trembling boy interrupts, fervently assuring Lennox that he will keep the incident a secret, swearing never to disclose a word of what occurred today to anyone. His anxiety and fear of repercussions are evident as he pleads for leniency and promises to maintain absolute silence about the incident. Lennox maintains a stern gaze at the man, expressing skepticism despite the man's assurances. Sensing the tension, the man hastily offers assistance, inquiring if Lennox requires anything else. Acknowledging the man's nervousness, Lennox explains that since his recent arrival in the city, he's seeking information about activities or occupations that someone can engage in without requiring identification, emphasizing that it will be better if it uses magic. Later that night, the protagonist arrives at the location the man tells him about, which looks like a regular bar. Suspecting a potential facade or disguise, he decides not to reveal his true identity. Drawing upon his magical abilities, he adeptly manipulates his appearance and alters his hairstyle, understanding that he can't trust anyone but himself in this unfamiliar world. Lennox steps into the bar, and when the bartender asks about his order, he orders a light drink. As the bartender serves his order, Lennox casually engages in conversation, expressing his interest in seeking employment. He inquires if there's any need for a mage or if there are any tasks that require magical expertise. As Lennox awaits the bartender's response to his inquiry about work suited for a mage, a girl arrives and interrupts their conversation, announcing that the working hours have concluded. She asks what he is doing, so the bartender informs him that the guy said he is a mage. Taken aback by Lennox's appearance not fitting the conventional image of a mage, the girl remarks that he doesn't look like one. However, acknowledging the scarcity of mages, she concedes that appearances may not necessarily define one's abilities. Introducing herself as Jenny, she appears to be more open-minded, accepting Lennox despite his unconventional appearance for a mage. Concealing his true identity, Lennox introduces himself as Van because he can't say his real name. Jenny asks him to share his abilities and asserts that she won't find it very amusing if he calls himself a mage when he has only learned some ordinary magic. She emphasizes that he doesn't need to reveal what inherent magic system he is with. However, he should tell her his attributes. Lennox gathers mana in his fist and shows his magic bolt maneuver, which startles Jenny. She contemplates that it's rare because he activated it without a magic circle or a chant, so she immediately offers him to write a contract. She asks that since he came all the way here, he must not be picky about the type of work, and Lennox concurs, stating that anything would be fine except the stuff that involves messing with humans. Jenny assigns him bounty hunter work, assuring him that he will be paid immediately and that it's easy for him to determine the results. She explains that the target, Tyler Evans, is a scavenger, but 4 days ago, he tried to steal Achilles' security equipment. Lennox maintains his disguised identity as Van and queries if the attempted theft implies that Tyler's endeavor was unsuccessful, noting that it would be highly improbable for a mere scavenger to breach Achilles' security. In response, Jenny discloses that all the other scavengers involved in the incident were murdered, leaving Tyler as the sole survivor of the group that attempted the theft. She continues to divulge more details, explaining that Achilles took their hands off the case and passed them the cleanup. Since the scavenger branch he's affiliated with also withdrew their involvement, there won't be any problem. When Lennox inquires about the reward for capturing Tyler, Jenny reveals it amounts to 3 million sel, acknowledging that while it might not be exorbitant, it's a decent sum for catching a rat. Observing the report she presented earlier, Lennox expressed interest in obtaining a blood sample collected during the investigation. Jenny agrees to provide it, but cautions Lennox against using a blood mage to track Tyler. She dismisses the idea, emphasizing that blood mages are notorious for their exorbitant fees, demanding 5 million sell or more per case, portraying them as money-hungry individuals whose services would be too expensive for this pursuit. As Lennox exits the bar, he retrieves the target's blood sample from the envelope, but instead of seeking a blood mage's assistance, he opts for a different approach. He places the sample on the ground, considering alternative methods for tracking Tyler without relying on blood mage. Reflecting on his knowledge of ordinary magic, Lennox recalls that the common magic he possesses is something he devised while in World 2.0. He sifts through the mental list he compiled, recollecting the variety of standard magical techniques he created during his time there. Intrigued by the possibilities, he wonders if any of these techniques could be employed to assist him in tracking Tyler without the need for costly or specialized magical aid. Soon, he realizes that the most suitable magic to use now is Two's Hunter-type class magic Bloody Chase. He casts that maneuver on the cloth with the target's blood, transforming the blood sample into a crimson snake. The snake, a manifestation of the spell, swiftly guides Lennox to an abandoned train station and comes to a halt beside a solitary man. This catches the man off guard, and he anxiously turns around, bewildered by the unexpected presence. As the man turned around, Lennox confronted him sternly and addressed him as Tyler Evans. Tyler abruptly attempts to flee, wondering how that young man found this place. Meanwhile, Lennox contemplates that he came here after making all the preparations to defend against any incoming attacks, but never imagined he'd run away immediately. The protagonist finds it more bothersome and contemplates the limitations of his current physical form, recognizing the difficulty of chasing down someone in his present state. Lacking confidence in long-range attacks, he utilizes his magic to create a sound wave, a maneuver intended to impede Tyler's flight and potentially hinder his escape. As the magical sound wave strikes Tyler, he stumbles and collapses to the ground, clutching his ears in excruciating pain as they begin to bleed. Meanwhile, Lennox advances toward the incapacitated man, asserting that he shouldn't have just run away. Suddenly, Lennox is targeted by a sniper shot. Fortunately, his magical protective layer acts swiftly, intercepting and deflecting the incoming bullet. Surprised by the unexpected attack, Lennox is momentarily taken aback, but swiftly realizes that his decision to create a defensive magical barrier as a precautionary measure was prudent. He reinforces his defensive measures by activating another strengthened barrier, considering that at this level, he should be able to last for at least a while, even if he gets hit by an anti-tank missile. Using his mana manipulation skills to search for the sniper, Lennox extends his sensory reach within a 1-kilometer radius. However, to his surprise, he detects nothing in the immediate vicinity. He wonders if that means either the sniper shot from more than 1 kilometer away or used ways to camouflage so that simple mana detection can't locate the sniper. It's probably one of these two situations, but contemplate the reason there could be to shoot him in his current appearance. Considering the broken barrier's location and the shot's direction, Lennox realizes that he isn't the target and that the sniper is after Tyler. He guesses that the sniper was trying to silence Tyler and probably was a scavenger, but he dismisses his assertion since he doesn't care about what happens to them. However, it's a different problem if they get involved in his matters. The protagonist grasps the gun and brandishes it at that man, contemplating that he has no intention of letting the sniper who dared to kill Tyler in front of him go, and he can't let the image of Hunter Van become a shitshow. So he shoots Tyler, considering that the more Van is known to be a cruel and cold-blooded human, the fewer people will want to get in his way. Meanwhile, the sniper who was aiming at Tyler is taken aback to see that his target is being killed by someone else. Lennox abruptly turns around and finds the presence of the sniper on the top of a building because the moment he killed Tyler, the sniper's mana wave had been in unrest. Recognizing the sniper's proximity within a kilometer, Lennox recalls possessing a specific magic tailored for this range. Amidst his recollection of common magics, he recalls thunder calling, a potent lightning magic that can be wielded with a single hand gesture. With determination, he raises his fist skyward, leaving the sniper perplexed about his intentions and contemplating whether Lennox will retract his magic or what his next move might entail. In an instant, prompted by Lennox's execution of thunder calling, the sky transforms into a brilliant blue hue crackling with lightning, catching the sniper entirely off guard. Without warning, a powerful bolt of lightning surges from the sky, striking the very building where the sniper had been positioned, reducing it to rubble in a chaotic explosion of energy. Observing the wreckage of the building, Lennox marvels at the staggering might of the maneuver, realizing it surpasses anything he had witnessed in the game. Now equipped with thunder calling, he feels assured in declaring himself a lightning mage to others. Drawing nearer to the demolished structure to inspect the aftermath, Lennox finds no trace of the sniper, leading him to conclude that the sniper, undoubtedly an extraordinary individual, must have managed to escape, leaving behind no discernible trail. However, instead of chasing the sniper, he contemplates that was enough for a warning and the lightning mage, Van's name, to be made known. Later, he returns to the bar and puts the bag in there, stating that this is Tyler Evans. However, since the bar is full of customers this time, the bartender informs him that there's a back door behind the building so that he could come in through that door. Stepping in through the back entrance, Lennox arrives just as the bartender is about to inspect Tyler's body. Realizing his oversight, the bartender quickly informs Lennox that this particular entrance should be used exclusively for work-related purposes. He then examines the corpse and finds out that the cause of death is a gunshot wound to the head, and besides the gunshot wound, he finds traces of his ears being injured. Impressed by the meticulous examination, Lennox inquires of the bartender whether he has a background as a coroner due to his thoroughness, and the bartender admits that he used to do some similar work. The man inquires if Lennox wishes to claim his reward immediately, specifying that the amount will be $270,000 after subtracting a 10% processing fee. He mentions that choosing alternative methods for receiving the money will incur additional processing charges. When Lennox inquires about these other options, the bartender elaborates, explaining that alternate methods include utilizing borrowed name bank accounts, investing in bonds or stocks, and occasionally involving more intricate money laundering procedures at the request of some individuals. Meanwhile, Lennox wonders if the financial regulations in Valkan similar to Earth. Shortly after, Jenny arrives and applauds Lennox for his swift work, acknowledging the speed with which Van, presumably Lennox, completed the task, commenting that it appears Van required the money urgently. While having a seat, she adds that with this type of bounty hunting, it takes more time to find the target than to kill them, so she asks Van what kind of talents he has for him to have been able to find and kill Taylor so quickly. Lennox responds casually, attributing his success to sheer luck. Impressed by Lennox's capabilities, Jenny is willing to continue working with him due to his evident competence. Lennox remarks that he is okay if they arrange other work for him now. However, Jenny denies it, urging him to go back for now because they need to hand this to Achilles and find out what the scavengers are up to. Before she reveals their impending work, Lennox ponders whether it's too early for her to trust him. In response, Jenny remarks that they both are on the same wavelength, and she guesses that Van could say they need more time to get to know each other more, just like dating. However, Lennox dismisses her assertion, retorting that he doesn't think that's the reason, and leaves the bar, stating that he will visit again soon. As he leaves, the bartender informs her that he tried to bypass the scavengers' network and found something interesting. He hands her the tablet, informing her that Van's mission is recorded, and Jenny is amazed to see that. The next day, the protagonist visits the Balkan City Library. He comes here to find out about the magic system of the world, and he must also find ways to increase the lifespan of Lennox, whose life is burning away like a candle melting because of the karma system. Recognizing that time-related magic might hold the key, he anticipates finding potential solutions within the realm of the world's highest-ranked unique magic. He delves into the Mana Theory book within the library's extensive collection. Its contents enlighten him about mana patterns, revealing that each mage possesses a distinct and unique mana pattern. Furthermore, he discovers that Arch-Mages at level 8 or higher can manipulate these patterns, offering a glimpse into the possibilities of altering one's mana pattern. He decides to implement the mage's thumbprint maneuver described in the book. Reflecting on the text mentioning that Arch-Mages of level 8 and higher can alter these mana patterns, he contemplates the significance and strength associated with being at level 8 in the mage hierarchy. As he meditates on level 8 mage's potential power and influence, he infuses mana into the maneuver described in the book. As he channels mana into the technique, he observes the pattern shifting and changing in response to the flowing mana. Though uncertain of the actual strength associated with level 8, he acknowledges his proficiency in this magical manipulation. While he remains engrossed in reading the books, he doesn't realize that the entire library is empty. However, he notices a stark contrast from his initial expectations and experiences a fundamental shift in his understanding. The concept of common magic that he previously knew about seems to have entirely vanished, leaving him in a realm of new and unfamiliar magical concepts. Magic can be categorized into two more significant categories: unique and common. Unique magic is a single type of magic that each mage can learn, which is more specialized and powerful. On the other hand, common magic isn't that powerful, but it has an overwhelmingly wide variety of applications regardless of attributes or its target. That was the case for World 2. However, in this current world, the concept of common magic remains conspicuously absent from documented references. This realization perplexes the protagonist, raising questions about how Lennox could have employed a concept that seemingly does not exist in this realm. Despite Lennox's remarkable abilities, it appears implausible for him to utilize an idea that needs more existence and recognition within this world. As the protagonist grapples with these queries, his quest for information yields little regarding time-related unique magic or any revelations regarding common magic. This lack of findings leaves him with more unanswered questions and minimal progress in his search for solutions, so with a deep sigh. As the protagonist is engrossed in his studies at the library, a girl named Eris Richelin approaches him, offering unsolicited advice, suggesting that aspiring to become a mage is futile and advises him to abandon such aspirations. According to her, hope only leads to enduring pain. She expresses pity for his situation and remarks on the prolonged hours he spends reading books, indicating that merely dedicating time to studying won't grant him the status of a mage. She believes he's far too late to pursue that path. Instead, she recommends focusing on subjects like theoretical magic engineering, implying it might be a more practical and achievable pursuit for him. Eris emphasizes that he can only learn magic by going to a school or a university if he can't find a teacher. However, he can't enter a university without any foundations, and even if he gets in by luck, he won't gain anything from the lectures. According to her, he can do nothing by himself as it's a field of study where talent and luck play such a role, even if he has much passion. She then apologizes to him, stating that she doesn't know why she is telling this to a stranger and reminds him that it's past the closing time and she needs to arrange the book, so she requests him to leave. Lennox inquires if her advice stems from her personal experiences and suggests that if she is a student, perhaps it's premature to contemplate giving up. He proposes that rather than conceding defeat, wouldn't it be more beneficial for her to exhaust every possible avenue before reaching such a conclusion? His unexpected response startles her, prompting a moment of surprise or shock in response to his suggestion. She places her business card on Lennox's chest, finding his reaction somewhat ridiculous, as she doesn't expect him to heed her advice so readily. She turns around, asking him to forget it, and states that she will show him some magic if he returns next time. As she departs, Lennox refers to her as an odd woman. When he gazes at her business card, he is surprised to know that she is a chair professor of elemental magic faculty at Labaton University. He's amazed by this revelation, finding it hard to believe that someone who appears so young could hold such a prestigious academic position. He then departs from the library, and on his way, he plans to buy the groceries and head towards the market. While contemplating that if he wants to eat something, he should cook something nutritious. However, his thoughts are abruptly interrupted as he is startled to see a police officer investigating an individual nearby. Feeling anxious, Lennox quickly turns around, attempting to remain composed, and wonders if they might be looking for him. As he continues walking, someone calls him, and Lennox turns around and asks the girl if she is talking to him. In response, the girl asks if he has done something wrong, remarking that he was glancing at the mana pattern check as if he was guilty of a crime. She emphasizes that the way he looks at the mana pattern inspection makes him look guilty of something. At that moment, Lennox realizes that the mana pattern is like a fingerprint. That's how they inspect things in World 3.0. She then asks why he arrived, and the protagonist responds that he wants to buy vegetables. He asks about her identity and also inquires about the previous lady who used to work at the shop. The girl informs him that the lady was an employee, and now the one he is dealing with is the owner of this greengrocer. She further tells him that she grows these vegetables as a hobby. Although somewhat surprised by her production scale, Lennox remarks that she must be wealthy if she grows such a large quantity as a hobby. The girl unexpectedly agrees with his observation and prompts him again if he intends to make a purchase. Unable to discern if she's being truthful, Lennox